Hi, this is Coralla Ficklin at CorallaFicklin.com, WelcomeNetwork.com, Welcome.com, iStudyCards.com, iStudyGuides.com, ExplainAskPlain.com. And as I've said in other videos and a lot of other sites that you can go into one of those sites and then you'll see the other sites that we have available. Okay, so we talked about verbs. Now, there are regular verbs and irregular verbs, but I don't want to talk about the irregular verbs right now. What I want to talk about now is an aspect of Spanish that frankly took me years to not to learn, okay? Because, I think after a couple of weeks, you learn that there's a mood called the subjunctive mood. There's indicative, and then there's a subjunctive. And you learn that. But frankly, at least for me, there might be people much more intelligent or who have another, especially if you have the background. If you are coming to Spanish from French or from Italian, or especially from Portuguese, which is very, very similar to Spanish, which is good and bad because sometimes you can get them mixed up. But you probably already have a space in your brain for the subjunctive. But if you are basically only an English speaker and you don't speak your own language that well, and I'll tell you why I say you don't speak your own language that well, the subjunctive mood can be extremely challenging. But it can be exhilarating, fantastic. It can be eye-opening, mind-opening. It can give self-confidence once you get it. And I mean get it now. I mean really understand the subjunctive in Spanish. And once you understand the subjunctive in Spanish, you understand it basically. They don't use it the same way exactly in French, but you understand the concept. So even though they don't use it exactly in French or exactly the same in Portuguese or exactly the same in Italian, you never have to relearn it. You just have to learn how they do it in their languages, in French, in Portuguese, in Italian. And probably other languages have the subjunctive, because believe it or not, English has the subjunctive, and at one time the subjunctive was as important in English as it is in the Romance languages and the Latin-based languages still. And let me give you some examples. But we don't normally, maybe sometime where in our 4th grade or whenever they teach this particular aspect of language, the teacher somewhere uses the word subjunctive. But a lot of times, I don't think we get it. We don't get that this is a different mood. And we might say, I don't know what the indicative is, so please don't even say to me, or please don't even, I don't even want to know what this subjunctive is. Although I think it's a very interesting aspect of grammar, and you can say so much. Okay, let me give you some examples. So I'm looking at, when I always look over here, as I've said in my other videos, I'm looking at the web page. And I'm looking at the information that I'm giving you now. If I say to you, long live the king. Now, we say that in English. Long live the king, or we don't. Yeah, you've heard it, especially in movies. I think in Robin Hood, long live the king. How come we don't say long live the king, since the king is the subject of the sentence? And how come, that's something different. Why is the king in the end of the sentence rather than the front? That's something different. Or if I say to you, May he live forever. Now you might say, well, that's old English. That's English that no one says anymore. That's true. I mean, people will find a different way of saying it. But if I say, but you probably have heard people say, may he live forever. Or may he always be healthy, or may he always reign as king of the kingdom. You hear these in these movies, Robin Hood and different movies. Why doesn't the verb end in S, since we're talking about he, she, or it? Why doesn't I say may he lives forever? Now you might say because there are two verbs in a sentence. No, that's not the reason. Because it's being interrupted by a subject. Because what you're really saying is may he live forever. It's not like saying I can live forever. I want you to eat. I want to eat. No, yeah, I want to eat. Because what I'm saying is, may he live forever is, I want that he live forever. So there's not really two verbs in a sentence. So why can't I say, may he live forever, and it's he, and it's live, but the live doesn't end in an S? Because it's not what we teach, and it's not what we're taught. I, you, we, they live, but he, she, it lives. Let me give you another example. I hope that he be a good king. Now, I know you've heard that, in certain versions of American English, people use be. And especially, they'll say that in certain areas, I don't believe there's such thing as, quote, black English, because English that's spoken by African Americans in the South is very different from English spoken by African Americans in the North. But you hear in certain versions of urban and maybe even rural English, you hear the be. But that's not how I'm using be. I'm not using it, maybe people would say, incorrectly. I hope that he be a good king. Why am I saying be? Why aren't I saying is? I hope that he is a good king. You can say that, but you can also say, I hope that he be a good king. Or I wish that it rain. You can also say, I wish that it rains. But you can also say, although it's somewhat, I hate to use the word old-fashioned, but it's still correct English, I wish that it rained. Also, if I say, now you've heard this. I mean, this is said a lot still. If I were you. If I were you. Or if I were a rich person. Now, why are we using were? Isn't it I was, he, she, it was, you were, we were? Why am I saying were? And you say, well, it sounds right, or that's how they say it. And you might still hear, and you still begin to hear if I was you, but you hear still enough if I were you, if I were rich. Okay, time is up. Next video, we're going to continue looking at the subjunctive mood in English and transferring it. Corralificklin at corralificklin.com.